All right, guys. So, why your favorite bands aren't playing in the U.S.? John Reeves, a good friend of ours, put this video up not too long ago where he's talking about why they aren't coming to the U.S. I did some digging. I wanted to compare the costs compared to other countries, and I have the numbers for you guys. I'll show you all. But pretty much to sum it up, he's just talking about how extremely high price it is to get a visa to get in here, and how that could impact the music industry, how it can impact fostering this really good collaboration that we have going on online, because I've worked with artists from all over the world on this channel. I've had singers from Korea, from Japan, from Canada on here. It's been really cool to collectively make music like that together. And so in hopes of maybe one time when I go to that country or something like that, I can work with those artists, is something that I was thinking that would be cool to see down the line by doing these collabs online and mixing up these artists. And this is really going to damper or prevent that from happening, or prevent like that little mesh, that mold, that the inspiration, the influence from other countries and other music. It's still happening anyways, and I still think it will happen no matter what because of the internet. However, the chances of us like collabing together or seeing what we're seeing with Baby Metal and Poppy and Bloodywood, like that stuff might become harder. That might not happen anymore if they keep getting restricted depending on which country they go to. Right now, the U.S. is on fire because they are literally triple the cost of other countries. I'll show those numbers in a second. I just want to see what your guys' thoughts were about that video and what's your guys' take on it.
Horrible, terrible. Good job, John, though. John did an excellent job of actually going through the numbers. He really went deep on this. It was terrible hearing that. Just like the explanation of these, just the idea that all of these groups that are finally starting to pick up some steam over in the West and wanting to capitalize on that and being prevented because over the course of the last year, it's gone up 350% in order to come over here. And that's just the 350% uptick is just on if you're going to wait the 4 to 6 months to get your visa to come over. That doesn't even include if you're going to try to expedite it in less than a month, which most of these bands actually are trying to do because it's really hard to schedule shit 6 months out in advance like that. So we're talking about, and I'll let you go through the numbers because I saw that you have a little screen up there, but just as a general, I felt shitty for these bands and these promoters that are trying to work together and can't do the stuff that they could do just a year ago.
I only could see one positive, which was, come on, US, let's step up our music game and really change shit up. That's all I could think of, but normally that takes influence from other people and people and collabing with each other.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. Because that's the same mentality that the U.S. is taking from a political stance with all the tariffs too. So if we charge tariffs, then American companies will have to pay more to import, which means it's going to be cheaper for us to make the product better here or make the product here, which brings more jobs here. Like that's the mindset of, all right, if we make it more expensive to import on the U.S. economy, then it's going to promote more U.S. workforce. And
it should force us to get better.
That's the mindset on that. And I guess you can see how it makes sense, but it's just, man, it's this sticker shock. Damn, like you're making it so hard for people. Like gradually get to that point. Don't just say it's $1,500 per member or whatever, like $8,000 to expedite the process.
That's what's crazy about the whole thing is we have the AI shit happening and we have this happening for the US. That's devastating on the music industry in total. Like it's just
the two of those together, man. You're right. It's like we're just losing out. Like we're basically replacing international talent with AI generated stuff at this point. That's the worst thing that we could possibly do.
So the US, right? For a visa, and this is for musicianship, $1,600 to 4 to 6 months processing time. This is per person, non-refundable. Optional $2,800 for expedited processing. Here's the kicker, though: it could be denied. All right, if it's denied, non-refundable.
Non-refundable. You still have to pay that money. And just to be clear, this was $400 last year. $440, I believe. So that's why it's about a 350% increase.
Yeah, we're just like hiking up, just like the stock market was doing when it went crazy after the pandemic. All right, United Kingdom for a standard visitor visa, and this is per person, it's $125 roughly is what it converts to. This is a work permit required for paid gigs. You do need this. Canada, work permit plus biometrics. Ken, maybe you can help me out with that one. If you know what biometrics are for that, it's $240. This is converting to US. Sometimes requires additional proof of gigs. So this extra documentation I have to turn in. Australia has a temporary activity visa subclass 408, which is $315. and that's 1 to 2 month processing time. This is probably our second highest, but still reasonable, I guess you could say. And you need an event sponsorship though. That is needed. It's a little bit harder for Australia. You need an actual sponsorship to get over there for that. Germany is a little bit different from the rest of the EU, but roughly the same. They have a 15-day processing, which is pretty fast, $85 for up to 90 days in the European Union. For the rest of the areas, it's $85 to $100. It takes 2 to 3 week processing time and covers 26 countries, allows short-term touring. Japan is the cheapest. Japan is the cheapest one, and it's $20 to $40. It takes 5 to 15 business days, but requires a sponsor, though. You have to have a sponsor in Japan that does that, and that could be like another band sponsoring too, or if you're a member going over that. It's not too hard for Japan. I was like, okay, that's crazy that it's easier to go play in Japan. I would have thought it would have been harder. I really did. I thought Japan would have been the hardest to get in. I thought the processing time was going to stay like a year and you're going to need like shit ton of paperwork. I'm sure there's quite a bit of paperwork, but yeah, so those are the numbers. If we're comparing to other countries, it's wild.
Insane. You want to even talk about, here's the worst part to me. 4 to 6 weeks, or 4 to 6 months is the normal United States one, right? Yeah. But if you want to do the expedited, it turns into 4 to 6 weeks instead of months.
Yeah.
And that's going to cost you an additional, $2,800.
$2,800
on top of the $1,600. So you're above $4,000 now. And the expedited process is still longer than most of the country's standard process.
To be fair, though, like they say 4 to 6 weeks with your passport, and I always got it in a couple weeks, but I don't know.
It just sounds like
maybe they get it faster.
Man. Jesus Christ! Like,
that is crazy, though. Their expedited is longer than everyone's standard processing time.
For that, you're literally going to pay 12 times the amount.
Maybe the U.S. has a lot of government employees they got to pay.
Not anymore.
Hired a lot of them this year.
Now they can make more. Right? Now they can give 6 figures.
Yeah, they're going to make more out of AI. They're going to make more out of computers.
I know.
This is all working hand in hand to crush us, man.
So the biometric is fingerprints and pictures, and apparently the U.S. does that also. It's an $85 fee. That's part of it. So it's like accumulation. Like the form itself is what this is what's saying online. The form itself, it starts off at $1,055, and then you start adding on. And the premium processing is $2,500 as of now. Thank you for the correction, Ken. Too. I looked into it a little bit more. So the $2,800 is not on top of the 16. Thankfully.
Oh, okay.
Thankfully.
So that's the max.
That's the max. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
So.
Way too much.
But it's still way too much.
Too much still.
It's still way too much. And I was going to say, like you guys mentioned before, this is all the crew also. But again, a lot of bands, they hire crew in the U.S. to run the tour in the U.S. That's what they do to get around that. They don't. They don't bring their crew from the other countries. Like that's not how it normally works. They normally have people based in the U.S. that support them. That's why bands will always get labels in other countries. So when they travel over, like Baby Metal has the distribution over here and things like that.
But you got to be a bigger band to get a label over in the West.
That's true.
We're not talking about the Haganes over here. We're talking about the Baby Metals.
That's why Sony is crazy, because Sony is everywhere. They have an American subsidiary, and they own a bunch of other labels under them, and that's how Sony gets away with all that stuff. And
it's actually pretty smart for them, because then if you have people stationed all over the world, then the bands, like, it's smart for the bands to sign with them, even at the lower levels, because with the people stationed all over the world, they'll always have people to help work with them, no matter where they decide to go.
This was a clip from the Solid Sound podcast. You can check out the full podcast right here. We do this live every Sunday at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Hope to see you all there. See you in the next one. See you!